If there is an image that I want you all to remember Nancy Pelosi for, may this be the image for all time. That's who she is. And I want to remind you all why this is such a big deal.
Because she's ridiculous?
Well, I would say ridiculous is a very appropriate word to describe her, but it's nowhere near enough.
And we do recall, if unless people don't recall, that these particular kente cloths have no relation whatsoever to George Floyd's ancestry. I believe these particular kente cloths are like Kenyan or something like that. But it was just, they're just so, that's some caucasity right there.
Well, listen, you don't know what you're talking about. I am a very good friend to the Black people, especially those my this.
All right, enough of this.
Yeah. But that's a pretty good indicator of what so many in this country had to deal with for such a long time. And as I've often felt, Pelosi was somebody who really, in so many ways, I know a lot of people think, oh, she's such a bad representative of the Democratic Party. No, I actually think she was the perfect representative of the Democratic Party. In fact, I can't think of a congressional representative that better embodied the post-Reagan Democrats better than her. Like, she really is the embodiment of somebody who initially came into Congress as a progressive, but then again, being a progressive was probably considered being a moderate in the mid-'80s. And so as the congressional representative of San Francisco, or the greater San Francisco area, for the past 4 decades, it's also incredible when you think about the examples that we could give of somebody like Pelosi, who just sat in Congress forever. And now we're in a situation, as you've pointed out, where she's very likely going to attempt to bequeath her throne, because that's what it is, to her kid.
Can I add, and this is where, okay, when you're like, if we rewind a little bit, so you're saying she came into Congress as a progressive. I don't think she ever I don't think she ever came into Congress as anything of any ideology or any substance whatsoever. Nancy Pelosi is a rainmaker. It's that simple. Nancy Pelosi was the biggest bundler fundraiser for the Democrats. And that is what allowed her to get her congressional seat, was basically she is a rainmaker. And anybody who knows that is that in any business, the person who's the rainmaker is in charge. That's who's in charge. That's the person who brings the money is the person in charge, just as how it works. Which is why, even though you have her handing over the leadership to Hakeem, when of course they're not in a majority position, but she hands over the leadership to him. Does anybody really believe that he's the leader? Of course not. She's the leader. Now, whichever oligarchic, tentacles she passes that off to, and maybe she does. I mean, she is one of those people that does believe that she's probably entitled to bequeath her seat to her daughter. These people do believe that they should be allowed to determine who is after them.
Well, it's not just that. You also have to remember that of all the people that I could think of that is all about the pomp and circumstance, it's definitely Pelosi. This is a person who is looking forward to everyone giving her flowers over the next year plus. And then once she's officially out of Congress, there is no one who is going to be bigger or more financially compensated on the speaker circuit than this devil of a woman, who did everything in her power for the past 2 decades plus to block every single progressive piece of legitimate legislation, who was 2 decades ago, incredibly, working on the Affordable Care Act that was over 1,000 pages long and says, we have to pass it first before we know what's in it.
Right.
That is
again, never progressive. She was never progressive.
Correct. And as a young, progressive-minded person at the time, little did I know in thinking that this was actually going to make healthcare better. As it turns out, the ACA, Obamacare, turned out to make healthcare even worse. On the one hand, you removed pre-existing conditions as a means for getting coverage. And then at the same time, you allowed the private insurance and big pharma industry to take an even greater share over the system. Pelosi had as much to do with this as anybody. She is somebody who represented one or what was maybe at a time the wealthiest district, but for the most part was the third wealthiest congressional district in the entire country. And this is supposed to be the Democratic Party. So she truly was there to oversee the complete odyssey of the Democrats becoming the Reaganites. That's basically.
Yeah, they're all the same. I mean, neoliberalism and capitalism go hand in hand, right? So it all works together. But she was never, again, I don't think she ever had a position or an ideology. She completely represents capital. She's always represented capital. She brought in the capital, and that is why she has her position. This is someone who probably her position is varied based on who's paying. And I also think that, you talk about how much money she will make on the speaker circuit. Yeah, I mean, she will. And that's more about, I think, an ego thing more than anything, because at the end of the day, the amount of money that she's made from insider trading, she doesn't need to ever do a speaker circuit. Like that's child's play money compared to what she's already gotten in investments and stock options and whatever else she does. Right. So, yeah. Good riddance.
And this is, again, the part where we and the libertarians really cross over. Nancy Pelosi publicly announced that all bank transactions over $600 must be reported to the IRS, which means that this is another tax on the poor, is basically what she's doing. Meanwhile, we're in the midst of the lockdown to end all lockdowns, and she's showing off her $12,000 ice cream freezer.
Right.
What was the ice cream again, Jen? I know
it's
you
the Jenny's. It's the Jenny's ice cream.
And what makes the Jenny's so special?
They just have, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's good. There's cool flavors, but it's not necessarily, it's not my favorite or anything. Like, I don't know. I think it's good, but it's not like that. But that's really not the point.
No.
She is a very, very out of touch, elitist, privileged white woman. That's what it is. And if there was ever a symbol of like what I think of in terms of white feminism, she's the poster child. She's the poster child for white feminism. That's how I think of Nancy Pelosi. And honestly, good riddance. Like I hope that the person who is challenging her that is more progressive, I hope that they have the money and the backing that they actually can get in there before it's her daughter. But at the end of the day, that district is sort of people like her.
I think you're right. And I also think that one of the reasons that she is stepping down, not just because she's a dinosaur, she's 86 years old, for God's sake. I think the reason she's stepping down is because she was getting a primary challenge from a very wealthy challenger. And I don't think she really wanted to get in the mud at her age, trying to defend her seat against somebody that could have brought millions of dollars to the table. I do think that in itself is a big part of it. And
so she steps aside. They put up her daughter as the establishment candidate. And they're able to sell that better, and she doesn't have the same skeletons and all that stuff. So they're able to sell that better to ward off anybody that would be coming after her, attacking her based on her ethics.
The thing that really stands out from this experience, which is a firm reminder, and we'll get into this with Nick and Jay of RBN at the top of the hour, I want you to keep in mind why being involved in the Democratic Party requires you to be a whore of the worst kind. And that includes getting on your hands and knees and talking about how much you love Nancy Pelosi. And I see this from people that just want to get their balls scratched just a little bit within the establishment.
It's so gross. It's so gross.
But if listen, I'm throwing shade at you, Ro Khanna, and everyone in between that Nancy Pelosi this, Nancy Pelosi that. I want to show you something before I read the worst tweet of them all.
Okay.
Just keep this in mind, guys. There's a lot of things we could say about Nancy Pelosi, of which there is complete validity. But remember this, above everything else that we could talk about when it comes to the Queen Bee herself, she has an entire website devoted to her stock picks. This is a person who, through public life, has amassed a fortune that we're aware of, well over $200 million. This is a person who, when confronted about stock trading, said, this is a free market and we're allowed to trade stocks. That's her response.
Yes. Well, is it any different than any of the Capital tool responses? I mean, what would you think she would say? This is just excellent, but it'll be interesting watching everybody fawn over her. Like again, these are our employees. They're our employees. I don't understand, and they're very insubordinate. I don't understand why there's admiration for someone who came in however many years ago, suckled at the teat, profited immensely, just sat there at the, with the power and all that. To do what? What was accomplished in that other than her stock portfolio? What has she done? What has she done that's helped anybody? As a Speaker of the House, what did she do? And I'm not talking about her pre-perforated, whatever it was, thing with Trump where she ripped it. That was just so stupid. It's all performative. She's ridiculous. She's ridiculous. And the only people that like her are the vagina hat wearers. The vagina hat wearers, Nancy's their girl. Yeah.
I'm going to read a statement.
They probably also watch Rachel Maddow. Sorry.
I'm going to read a statement to you guys that I think will really get you to understand the depths of just how vile and evil this person is. From October 7th, 2024. 1 year ago, the world watched in horror as Hamas terrorists unleashed a monstrous assault on Israel. During their brutality on October 7th.
Don't do it with the voice. Don't do it with the voice.
Hamas slaughtered nearly 1,200 people, including more than 40 Americans, wounding thousands more and kidnapping hundreds of civilian adults and children. This horrific attack, orchestrated by a terrorist organization dedicated to the destruction of the state of Israel, was the deadliest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Today and every day, we remember the victims of October 7th and the 6 hostages who have died in the year since. We keep their loved ones in our thoughts and continue praying for the release from all those that still being held in captivity by Hamas terrorists. America stands unwaveringly with the Israeli people and supports the right of Israel to defend herself. At the same time, our hearts break at the intolerable devastation and suffering of innocent civilians and families in Gaza. As we marked 1 year in this war, of all sides, must continue working to achieve a ceasefire and hostage deal on a path to a 2-state solution with just and lasting peace for Israelis and Palestinians. Give me your best liberal Zio answer. And that's what you get. This is also the same person who made the statement saying, and I quote, "If our entire republic had burnt to the ground and there was nothing left to bring us together but the state of Israel, we would still survive." There are a lot of people that you had a thought.
No, it's just, it's first of all, she's not dead. She's retiring. So I feel like the amount of pomp and circumstance is kind of ridiculous. And I'm not one for maudlin shit anyway. But I think that the only people that are really doing anything in terms of honoring, recognizing are bootlickers, okay? Sycophantic, that group. And then the people the libs that they don't know any better. They just don't know. Normal people don't care. about Nancy Pelosi or not Nancy Pelosi or thinks she's all that. And yeah, I don't think so.
Don't you love the glasses? Isn't the glasses the whole thing? Putting them on and tearing up the paper and doing the dance and all that. You know, I thought about playing the farewell video of Pelosi, but no, that would be a waste of time. What I do want to do is read the statement from maybe the most vile colleagues of hers that loves her just as much. I'm sure you all have a pretty good idea of who I'm referring to. Quite the Zion Nazi himself, and somebody who unfortunately is going to be in the U.S. Senate for probably the rest of his life. And that, of course, is Adam Schiff for brains. Nancy Pelosi will be recorded as the greatest speaker in American history. The result of her tenacity, intellect, strategic acumen, and fierce advocacy. Again, all fluff words, all.
But you can't name anything she's done. What has she done? It's unbelievable. Like, do you know how many speakers we've had in Congress that have pushed it through and gotten things done? I mean, that used to actually be a thing. So to say she's one of the, like, I don't understand. And what? Identity politics?
Yeah, well, how about the fact that you consider Nancy Pelosi to be a better Speaker of the House than Tip O'Neill?
Exactly. I mean,
who actually got considerably decent progressive legislation through when Reagan was president. Pelosi goes out of her way to get every single piece of corporate-backed legislation through, and no one stood on the train tracks harder to stop single-payer health care from ever getting a floor vote than this lady.
No.
And so as Schiff continues, she has been an indelible part of every major progressive accomplishment in the 21st century. Okay, so now you're going to hear what shitlibs think is progressive accomplishment of the 21st century. Her work in Congress delivered affordable health care to millions. Want to raise your hand about who's really got affordable health care? Created countless jobs, can't name a number. Raised families out of poverty. Again, just blowing smoke. Cleaned up pollution. No, actually, you made it a lot worse. Brought LGBTQ rights into the mainstream. Yeah, you got legalized gay marriage. Great job. And pulled our economy back from the brink of destruction. Not
when?
When?
What does that mean? When has anybody pulled us back from the brink of destruction? You bail out the billionaires, you bail out the banks, this is the kind of wordage that is just so hyperbolic, ridiculous.
Nancy Pelosi was not content to be a master legislator in Congress. She was a global leader. You mean like the time that she went to Taiwan, going over the head of the president, when that truly was traitorous grounds, what she actually did. She caused an international incident that we're lucky it didn't turn into an actual serious problem. And maybe it was, and maybe it was dealt with, but I digress.
And it's completely linked to her investments.
Oh, yeah.
That's those choices, those decisions it was based on business decisions. Again, never forget, she's the rainmaker. She is all about bringing in money. That's what she does.
And not only that, but the people that laud things like the CHIPS Act, do you understand who's benefiting from this? We don't pass legislation in this country that benefits working people. We benefit the managerial class, the wealth class. Once in a while, labor might get a piece of the action. But on the one hand, while you have somebody like, let's say, Lena Khan under the Biden administration, you also have the first strike that was broken for the first time since Reagan. So this idea, this fluff job, I like using Schiff as a reference because if there is a shit lib representative in the U.S. Congress, he is one of the best representatives of that outside of the likes of Wasserman Schultz. He really embodies it. And he's a Zion Nazi scumbag on top of that.
And let's not forget how he got there. Because he got there by raising up, propping up, promoting, supporting, and funding the GOP candidate to be the second person so that he wouldn't have to go up against Katie Porter.
Mm-hmm. And now Katie Porter turned into Adam Schiff.
Right. It doesn't, and 6 of one, half a dozen the other at this point. But just in terms of like, he's a gross person. This is a gross person who knows he can't stand on his own merit.
Her voice carried far beyond the walls of Congress as she championed human rights and democracy, women's equality, and a healthier planet in her travels around the world. You mean her travels in a private jet everywhere she goes? Do you know that one flight across the country in a private jet will cause more of a carbon footprint on this planet than you as an individual cause in your entire lifetime?
Correct.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons people have issues with Taylor Swift.
Probably have a reason with a lot of people, but
yes, but I just mean in recent years in terms of the amount of private air travel.
Mm-hmm. She represented the U.S. on the world stage, trailblazing while balancing the demands of an unruly Congress. Yeah, take a shot at that. Yeah, it's the GOP's fault too. And like Ginger Rogers, she's probably as old as Ginger Rogers, she did it backwards and in heels.
I hate that. I hate that. That's so identity ridiculous. Talk about the 80s called, Adam. The 80s called and they want their political, acumen back. Seriously. She did it backwards and in heels. Really?
Despite that steadfast advocacy on the world stage, there was never any question as to the speaker's commitment to her home, San Francisco. You mean the place that she drove into the ground over the last several decades? Today, no visitor to the city will be able to miss the enduring mark that her work has made.
You mean that nobody can afford to live there?
The most expensive city per capita.
Oh
Washington, D.C. is taking it over now, but nevertheless.
What's her enduring legacy?
From the restored and beautiful Presidio, the expanded Golden Gate National Park, improvements to BART, and the construction of the Trans Bay Transit Center, and a cleaner San Francisco Bay that is better protected from the ravages of climate change. Nancy Pelosi is also my mentor and friend. She has believed in me, given me opportunities, and been a guiding light for me. And I know that my story is one of hundreds in the Congress. Nancy never gave out easy assignments, but they were always important and uniquely suited for one's talents. She always knew who to turn to at exactly the right moment. Throughout our days,
that's what she did. She knew who to turn to at the right moment, meaning she knew who to get the money from at the right moment. That's that.
Throughout our decades of service together, her North Star was always clear. Her work, as she often said, was for the children. She did it for the kids. She did it for the kids, even if it meant throwing or taking a punch. Let me tell you something. Here's two people that can't take or throw a punch. I guarantee it. I am lucky enough to have raised two of those children in a world that is brighter, healthier, and more prosperous, thanks to the sheer determination of Speaker Pelosi. California will not see another champion that is committed, as capable, and as filled with the progressive spirit as Nancy Pelosi, not for a very long time. And I look forward to seeing what she will accomplish in her remaining time in Congress and in the future. Aren't they just a dazzling little...
And you know what? I'm going to tell you exactly what she'll accomplish. Nothing. She'll increase her stock portfolio. She'll increase her friends' stock portfolios. She'll do whatever Capitol wants her to do. And that's it. And she'll do it backwards and in heels. See, that's the beauty of Nancy Pelosi, is she really does show that women can be equally as disgusting and corrupt as men.